The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Quirky Dog Podcast, inspired by some of the quirkiest dogs you can ever imagine and the owners who love them. This podcast is brought to you by the quirky couple themselves, Scott and Jess Williams. Their aim is to educate and entertain. Here's Scott and Jess.
Welcome, guys, and happy Wednesday. We're coming to you from Salem, New Hampshire, right above Two Guys Smoke Shop. And today we have a super special guest. I'm so excited about this episode. This episode is the Super Collies dad with Paul Bourgeois. And Paul is here. He's been in active duty before. His Malinois Rroddie is running around the room as well. But first, we're going to start with the quickie tip of the day. All right, our quirky tip of the day is, if you do not already, I want you to follow Sara Carson directly. Sara Carson has been on the podcast a couple of times. She is a freaking force to be reckoned with in the dog world and life, as I'm sure Paul can attest to here on this podcast. Her Instagram account is the Super Collies Mom. She does a lot of cool stuff on the Super Collies as well, but Sarah's personal account is really cool, and since we're doing the Super Collies Dad, we're doing a little tie-in. So, Paul Bourgeois, thank you so much for joining us here today, and welcome to the Quirky Dog Podcast.
Yeah, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about this whole thing. You're coming to us from Tennessee. I guess tell us first how you and Sarah met up, and then I just want to talk about your history with dogs and your history in life and everything else.
Okay, so we actually met in Nashville. We were out there for an event. It was a nonprofit that supports Rroddie that I get invited to every year. And Sarah was invited there by another celebrity dog handler, Mark and Canine Mattis. We just hit off from there. I know Mark from the Project Canine events, and he just introduced us, and it was just kind of, I don't want to say love at first sight, but it really did take on a whole new meeting, and just, we met each other, and we just, we've been happy ever since.
Yeah, you guys friggin' went to Europe. We haven't even gone to Mexico. And this was within a few months of knowing each other. You guys have this love story that's even fun to follow from afar.
Yeah, I think it was our third date. We started planning our trip to the United Kingdom. I think that was, we basically talked about it. And we said, she wanted to go to Scotland. I wanted to go to Scotland. And we branched out and we went to England and Ireland, and we had that whole trip planned just within a few months, and we just got back, a couple weeks ago, and it was just an amazing time.
Yeah, I'm so happy for both of you. That's such an awesome story. And I also have to say, and as an aside, I'm so glad that you didn't find her online with her freaking cat video that she was posting. Oh my God, Sarah posts the funniest things. She's like, here's my online dating profile. And she's going through the bloopers of it. Oh my God, it was so funny. So, all right.
It's kind of like with us. I told Jess I want to move to Maine. She's like, all right. I guess now she lives in an old farmhouse in Maine.
We met at a dog event
lovely.
though too. I do think these dog people that can, find each other within the passion is really a cool tie-in. So, all right. Thank you for that tidbit of information. So you were there at this event to benefit Rroddie. Tell us a little bit about Rroddie and your history and everything else in dogs, and how you even got to this Nashville event to start, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. So basically, I enlisted back in 2013. I became a canine handler. From there, I spent 8 years active duty. 6 of those years, I was with MW Rroddie. We pretty much picked up, and that's where the bulk of my career, everything that I've done was with him, the majority of it. We did one deployment to Iraq. We did another deployment to Afghanistan. We've done about 35 Secret Service missions all around the world, multiple countries. We've been pretty much all over the United States, just following the, president and VPOTUS and everyone like that. So we had a pretty great career, and then as like all dogs, they get a little bit older. He starts slowing down, and it became a point where he was able to retire. And that was when he was 10 years old. So as his his last handler that I had him, I got first dibs. And of course I jumped at that. So I retired him in 2020, and he's been with me. He's 14 now. And, in those last 4 years of retirement, he's definitely slowed down his hips, and he's had a couple other medical issues and stuff like that, that have stacked up after his time in service. And that's where basically found Project Canine Hero, which is the nonprofit program that helps military working dogs and police canines with their medical costs. And that's ultimately how I got to that event.
Yeah, that is so awesome. And 14 is a kick-ass age for Mal.
It's very long.
Yeah,
especially with the 10 years of active duty. I mean, that's a lot of hard years on him, especially in that environment. Although the Secret Service detail sounds like a little less stress than being in Afghanistan. Am I incorrect there?
No, you're correct. There's different types of stresses. Being professional, having your eyes, everyone's watching you, or you might be, in front of a lot of people, or, let's say the president himself, you're there.
Rroddie doesn't care though, does he?
No, Rroddie, he's has a knack for doing something at the wrong time or at the most, unfortunate timing. So, if that's going to the bathroom at a post that I should be, keeping the area clean, and I got to pick that up and hold that all day. Stuff like that happens. So,
he keeps you humble.
Great time. He does. He keeps me very humble. Yeah.
So before we started this interview, we had talked about you had worked with some shepherds before too. So was that on active duty as well, or was this like pre-enlisting?
Nope. That was actually on active duty as well. So my first unit, I was sent to South Korea, where I was stationed at, and I had a German Shepherd there. And then when I finally finished my time there and I came to the States, my next dog was another German Shepherd. And ultimately, I received Rroddie. Was kind of more or less, there was an opening, and my dog was on his way out, and I was super stoked to have him because he was a good dog. He had a great nose, a lot more energy, and ever since I started working Malinois, I wouldn't go back. I love that breed. They're always there to please. They're always there to work, and that's very important when you have important missions. Yeah,
no, the Mals, there's nothing that compares.
I have a question for you. I mean, it's awesome that you got to adopt him when he retired, but did that work out where you were retiring at the same time? If you were active, you wouldn't have been able to keep him, right? You would have got to sign another dog, I'm assuming.
No, so I actually did get to keep him while I was active duty. So I had him at the house, and then I still was active duty for a couple of years where I would go to work and I would just work other dogs, but the bond wasn't really quite there.
Sure.
It was definitely with him. He was my one that I would base everything off of. The following dogs that I worked, it was more as a training NCO. So I was there, training soldiers, training, green dogs that, needed a little help here and there. But my primary handling days, everything that I did was with Rroddie.
Yeah. And were you a dog person before you enlisted? I mean, to become a canine handler, was that kind of where you wanted to head, or how did that all come to be?
It's funny. I was actually a firefighter. So I got out, I became a firefighter. I was an EMT. I did that for a few years. I was full-time. I loved it. It was a great career, but I'm actually from Massachusetts. So as you know, it's small. There are some small towns out there, and I was ready to kind of travel and move out. And the canine career wasn't quite a thing when I joined. It was military police. And when I was talking to the recruiter, he gave me a lot of options about, they have SWAT teams and they have detectives and they have canine. Well, I wanted to be on the SWAT team, or I wanted to be with canine. And I ended up getting canine, and I was very happy with it.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome fit, and it's an awesome journey here. So we talked about it a little bit, but tell everybody that's listening and watching kind of what Rroddie's role was, because I don't think everyone always understands what like these dogs on active duty, you know what I mean? Like different facets of that. Like he's not just running and being released to bite people all day, every day. Like just explain some of his different roles and jobs so people can get a better understanding, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. So he primarily was explosive detection. All our dogs are either patrol explosive detection or they're narcotic detection and patrol. I've only worked explosive detection dogs, so that was my, I would say specialization, but that's what I like the most. With that comes to security sweeps. If you're talking on deployments, it varies with, if you're doing more base security, you're searching vehicles that may enter or vehicles that, are outside the perimeter, or like one of my deployments, you're actually getting inserted into an area and you're searching villages, you're searching roadways and pretty much anything of importance. You're using that dog to look for explosive, odor. The odor might lead to a large IED, or it might lead to a bag of, HME that was used in that. So not necessarily everything that the odor is following is an explosive, but we can't tell, with a dog. You just know that you see their change of behavior. You see when they have cues, their markers, and either way, you want to be safe and you want to, explore it and find it. But that was primarily what their main capability was, overseas.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to note as we're kind of like diluting dogs over time here, and mals get a lot of heat sometimes publicly and everything else. Like,
working dogs in general,
but especially like, mals to me. Like, I feel like if we needed to dilute shepherds into pet dogs, they'd be a lot of pet dogs, but they could still function like that. Like, mals to me are just this whole different category of like, they are serving just a specific purpose. Like, they are keeping our troops safe overseas. Like, if they are alerting to a bomb and, a whole freaking troop of you doesn't get blown up, like, that is a huge deal. I guess it's so important to me that you understand how essential it is that these Malinois are still being bred to the degree that they're being bred to work in the way that they can work, and what an important role that they play in our lives. And you are living proof of that. And, you have your dog still here to talk about that. But it's not just, send the dogs on the bad guys all the time. And yes, that's an important part of this type of work as well. But explosives is a whole other facet that still Malinois need to fill. Like, a bloodhound has a great nose. They're not going to be overseas with the same, character and everything else going into these situations that frankly seems crazy to most people and most dogs. Mals have this heart and this bravery, I think, that a lot of people can't grasp.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely something there that, we don't have technology. There's things that have come close, or things that, in theory might work out that is for detection of that nature. But, dogs they're tried and true. We've been doing it for thousands of years. We've been using dogs in warfare. And, now more than ever with, the growing threat of, this world we live in, having dogs that are able to, search that kind of stuff out is vital. And it's not going to go away anytime soon. There's no equipment that we can pull out that we can just kind of, do what they do. So they are, essential for, security.
Yeah, 100%.
I was going to say, and the equipment that they're trying to come up with costs millions of dollars and doesn't work as well as the dog. And
exactly.
You said you got into some training towards the end of your career with other handlers and dogs. They don't all make it through the program to get out there. I'm sure that
you watched a lot.
Yeah, well, I remember when 20 years ago or so, I knew a guy that was buying dogs in Europe for Lackland, for training, and they had a terrible time with their internal breeding program, making great dogs. Yeah. It was so much easier to go to Europe and find good dogs, And part of that is just trying to create the perfect dog. There is no perfect dog, And so then picking the character traits and the things that are the most important, and sometimes turning a blind eye to some other issues about that dog that isn't perfect, but the dog is a good worker, And it is incredible what they do. And I had a friend that was over in Afghanistan early on as a civilian, working for Blackwater, I think he was. And his dog was, he was there for a couple of years, but his dog was like finished. He was from the explosions, and he said that there was explosive dust on the tires of every vehicle that came rolling by. I mean, there was so much going on there for the dog to deal with that his dog was pretty fried after a couple of years. He just had to take him home. I don't think he worked well anymore after so much exposure to that,
And that's the sad truth about it. And that's kind of where going into that nonprofit is, these dogs are out there just like soldiers are, just like every branch is exposed to that kind of stuff. And we have care when we get home, but the dogs, they don't, they come back. And Rroddie, he did another deployment before me with his previous handler when he was 2 years old. And so he's got 3 combat deployments, multiple explosives going off, breaching, gunfire, stuff like that builds up over time. And, unfortunately, these dogs get out and it manifests differently for certain dogs one way or another. And, thankfully, there are organizations that are out there now that help out, and they do those kind of things for, these dogs because they're, they need it.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Otherwise, they get put down.
It's a shame the government doesn't have like how they have the VA, but then have a VA for the dogs too.
Right.
But they're expendable. I mean, the government looks at them like they're expendable, and that's unfortunate. But I remember reading about, all the dogs in Vietnam, they left them behind, a lot of dogs. They didn't even bring them back. Just let them, either they killed them there or just left them. Which is crazy.
Yeah. So this nonprofit, I want you to send me a link to, because I'm going to put this in the show notes. So tell us a little bit about this, because I'm actually not super familiar with it, and I just think it's a really good thing for people to know about. I mean, can they donate? How can we support? I always know that Sara does the event there, but I just see her with a bunch of working dogs. I don't know what's going on. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So the nonprofit, it's Project Canine Hero. It's a great organization. They pay for all the medical bills and any kind of medical costs for that member of the program for life until the dog's, ultimately passes away at no expense to the handler. So pretty much a year after Rroddie and I, we both got out of the military, he got sick and I had to spend about almost $8,000 in surgery. He had surgery, had a couple of things taken out, and that incurred the cost to me. Well, some handlers getting out, they don't really have that, those funds on hand. And that's unfortunate where, these dogs have had such a great career, it could turn into something like that where, somebody can't support that. Well, this organization has come out and they pay for those surgeries, they pay for those medications, and they pay for all that stuff. And they do it for free, and you can buy their merchandise, you can support them directly with donations, but they're always doing these events to try to raise awareness, because they're exactly what you said before. There's nothing for the military or the government for these working dogs afterwards. There's no program for that. That's just goes straight to the handler or the police department or wherever picks them up. And a lot of these dogs get put down, and it's, they don't get to live the last few years. They work, and, ultimately that's it. So, Project Canine Hero is one of them, and they're great. I've done a couple events for them, and the CEO, he's an awesome guy, and they have a good program down there, and they do a lot of stuff for these dogs.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so we'll link that so people can find them, and if they want to donate, or we'll be buying shirts. I'm always big on buying shirts to support what we do, and then I wear them in future podcasts. It's good. All right, I have a little bit of a cheesy question. Have you seen the movie Dog?
I have, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so is it a decent representation?
It's Channing Tatum, right?
Yeah.
I know there's a few out. No, it's a good representation. I think I actually know some handlers that got to meet him when he went around, because he went to some military bases and met some handlers. And, I think it was a decent representation. It had its own story, just like any movie does. But yeah, it showed a lot of, the importance of the bond from, one dog to another. Some dogs are push button, just like any working dog. Anyone can pick them up, grab the leash, and go. But a lot of times it's not like that. A lot of times it's you spend years, you spend every day with this dog. You're spending your weekends, your time off. And you really kind of you build something that even now when I walk out of the room, Rroddie's going to come follow me. He's always right now. He's looking at me. He's always going to have that eye contact, because we've just been together so long. And I think that's a good representation in that movie of how strong that can be.
Yeah, and it's so funny because so many people are like, oh my God, Malinois are going to blow up and get so popular. And I'm like, I think we went there for Valentine's Day one time. We did dinner and a movie, and we were at the movies, and I had a 6-year-old sitting next to me, and he's literally afraid. I don't know if the dog was barking in the car, but he's like, Mommy, what's wrong with that dog? It really showed these Mals are not easy keepers. They can be pains in the asses.
I think he teared apart the upholstery in the car or something.
It's true to life.
That's reasonable.
They're not a good pet dog. No one's advocating for that. So yeah, I just wanted your take on that a little bit, because I thought it was great and I loved it. And it was a true representation of a Mal. It's not like we threw the Mal into a preschool class and we're everybody climb all over him, it'll be fine. That's kind of what things can look like.
Well, speaking of cheesy questions.
Oh God, here we go.
Since you were part of the Secret Service, did you get any insight on the president's dog Captain while you were there with his? So
I was out. I did some missions for. It was Vice President Biden at the time, and never had to deal with any of Captain or anything like that. I was out before that time, but
that was the biting Portuguese water dog, I think.
Oh, stop it! There's always biting dogs.
very difficult to manage, I'm sure.
Yeah.
No, I know. There's a lot going on there. All right. So tell us about your life a little bit right now. You're in Tennessee. Sarah's off doing shows or something. What are you doing currently? What is your future looking like? Like, tell us a little bit. We did your past. Like, let's go to present day Paul and where things are headed.
Yeah. So when I got out, I got a job. I'm working contracting security for the Department of Energy. So that's here in Tennessee. I was able to get that job while I was active duty. It just kind of worked out. So I had a few months of downtime before I picked up this career. It's a great job. I'm a contractor now, so I'm still kind of in that government world, but I'm not at the same time. So that's where I get to enjoy a little bit more freedom. Living in Tennessee is great. Plan on staying here for as long as I possibly can. I want to retire at this job. I think I mentioned to you before we started the show that I'm currently in a move. I'm looking to buy a house, and that's where Sarah's going to come live down with me, or we're going to start this small farm. It's 7 acres. We're just going to, maybe expand how many dogs she can have and kind of just work on that. And that's kind of where we're looking for our future.
That's awesome. I love it.
Sounds good.
And literally, like, you guys, it's just like warms my heart when I see how happy she is. And you seem like such a great person. Like, it's been a long road for her, and she deserves nothing but the best. How do Rroddie and her dogs do? Like, do you guys all intermingle? Like, what is that like?
Yeah. So it's funny because I never thought Rroddie would be a good, he always had kind of that standoffish because in the military, they're separated. They're not allowed to mingle with each other. They're not allowed to be with other people. It's really just dog and handler. And so for many years, was never really exposed to any animals like that. And with her having so many, one will come through the house, run up to him, and before he even knows what's going on, they're out the door, going potty, doing whatever. So, the times that they've interacted, Rroddie's been fine. I think he's now kind of really slumped into his retirement life.
Yeah.
But there hasn't been any issues. They come running in. They love to play. Of course, they have all the energy, and before he can even move, they're there and gone. So they've been great. Haven't had any real problems or any issues.
Probably going to keep him young.
Yeah.
Keep him moving,
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What else do we need to know about Rroddie or anything else that we missed about you? Anything else we haven't touched on of importance?
I'm sure there's plenty.
Honestly, no, I mean, it's really just, we had a great career. We had a good life together. I'm hoping Rroddie lives to 100, and we just celebrated his birthday on June 2nd. And, it's just kind of keeping him happy, keeping him moving, trying to ease his aging, his later years as much as possible. So really it's just, we're just trying to keep going day by day and see how he's going to do. I'm hoping that, if anything does happen, it's just going to be, in the middle of the night and he just goes peacefully. I don't want any issues. And I know he's just looking at me right now like, why are you talking about that? But yeah, we're pretty happy together.
I'm hoping that for myself too.
Yeah. Scott wants Jimmy to live to 100 too. Yeah, I guess.
Do you have your eye on any Malinois puppies in the future? Are you thinking about taking on another one?
I always said I wasn't going to get on the dog after Rroddie. I said this for years. And then I met Sarah, and now I have 6.
10.
So I think, I'm kind of, in a couple cats and throwing all the other animals. I think I'll have my hands full for a while before I get my hand on a puppy again.
Yeah. She's got enough spotty Merle stuff to go around. And I do have to say too, I think it's so awesome that you were able to meet Hero before he passed. Like, I think it's just such a awesome tie-in with her and her life and connecting, and even her with Rroddie. Like, not that that's essential for something to work, but we have these really important segments of our life that sometimes when they don't intersect with the person we're spending our whole life with, it's kind of like that whole thing was missed, skipped, you know what I mean? So I just think it's kind of poetic that you were able to come on the scene before Hero's heart stuff kind of succumbed him and everything else.
And you may not be interested, Paul, but we had a cloning company on the podcast last year. And you could make another Rroddie if you wanted to.
I've thought about that. I thought that was, I've always wondered how close, or maybe they're going to look exactly alike. And I guess it's just the memories and stuff like that. So it really makes
it would be a whole different dog. But yeah.
All right, can we go get him, or is he going to be a pain in the ass? If you go to get him on the couch before we close, will he be annoyed about this?
Get a bite sleeve.
Even move the camera. He had his toy, and then he started destroying his toy. He's really a lot of Mal. You can move the camera too. We don't care unless you have boxes everywhere.
Oh no, I can get him over. He's just he's gonna look at.
Oh, look at how cute he is. He's such a good boy.
Here he is.
He likes his, what is that, like a little hedgehoggy?
Yeah, it's his birthday. It's his birthday gift that everybody.
The dog is spoiled rotten.
Oh, he's spoiled. Yep, and he goes right down.
He is so cute.
But,
I love him so much. Thank you so much for grabbing him. Oh, he's great. And he loves his little toy. He needs one of those indestructible things.
Yeah, so they
don't make those for Malinois.
Kongs, and he's taken pretty much every Kong toy or the indestructible rubber, chewed it right in half. So toys like this, like I gave it to him on the second. I gave it to him for about 5-10 minutes, and then as soon as he starts tearing it,
goodbye.
I take it away, and it's already gone.
You don't want to have an obstruction, that's for sure.
Yeah, especially at his age.
No.
All right, he's such a good boy. Thank you for grabbing him. Thank you so much for everything that you have done for our country and
thanks
for
for your
working
service,
dogs.
Paul.
Yes, I mean, truly, we cannot thank you enough, and we appreciate it so much. And I'm so excited for you guys, like where you're headed and what things are looking like moving forward. And you're a great addition to Sara and the shows. You were like wearing a kilt or something in some photo I saw. Like you're really bringing some flavor to things. So thank you for everything you're doing to bring her joy as well.
Is there a guest house on the farm?
We're not going to Tennessee.
Maybe soon. Yeah, we'll get moved in first.
Yeah,
a
you
guest
guys,
house with a dog run in the back.
when you guys come up to visit your family in Mass, you're always welcome. We got ice baths, we got dogs galore. We'll make it happen. So thank you so much, Rroddie. It was so nice meeting you. It was truly a pleasure. And I think in the meantime, we're just going to keep it quirky. I think we covered everything we needed to cover. Did I miss anything? Christy says I'm good. All right, Paul Bourgeois, thank you so much. If you do not already follow Sara, check out the Super Collies Mom Instagram account, and I am linking the nonprofit in the show notes. You guys go buy shirts, send money, do all the good things to support these great dogs. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Paul.
Bye-bye.
All right, thanks.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.